Story number 6: the pros and cons of living in a bureaucracy. Now, this story is interesting. It's not only interesting, but it is here to stay. The fact is that somebody has to tax the public, somebody has to keep an eye on things, and somebody has to govern. So, what makes this story unique is the Supreme Court may decide if Obama era Wall Street watchdog agency was constitutional or is constitutional. The reason why these stories are in story number 6 and the reason why it's in the top 3 is because we've seen for years people who abuse the system and people who are against high regulation, high bureaucratic environments, institution, like things like the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the Better Business Bureau. Now, you look at these places and you wonder why they exist. Then you have to look at things like this: elderly people getting scammed, student loan places, mismanaging funds, mismanaging student loans, colleges mismanaging student funds, high pricing people out of education, parents cheating to get their children into a high level college. So you look at story number 6, bureaucracy. That means that somebody has to keep tabs on these types of dealings. And that's why this story is in the top 3. Venezuela wins seat on UN Human Rights Council. Look at what's happened in Venezuela. This was a country that was booming, and then all of a sudden, things just went south. Socialist governments. There are high levels of bureaucracies within the representative democracy, the representative republic that we call the United States. Look at China. Look at the NBA's dealing with China. Or you look at things like LeBron James, what's happening within that circle. Now, this is somebody who all of a sudden was on the side of, if I'm looking at the story correctly, was on the side of the protesters, then all of a sudden went to communist China, played a game. You look at these dealings and you have to get an idea of what types of governments these are, what these people in Hong Kong are doing, and why the story is interesting and why it made it to the top 8. Now, these are styles of government. That means that some of these people are forced to have children, forced to not have children, forced to have this amount of children, forced to not to have it. So you start to see the big picture. Now, in a bureaucracy, there's still the same types of dealings, but when you have a communist government or a communist regime, they just maybe a little bit more forceful. Now, that's the great thing about living in a representative republic, representative democracy, is you may think you have a choice, but you are more guided by your feelings and your inspirations to make those decisions. And that's why story number 6 is unique, because we've seen a high-level basketball player get put in the hot seat because of a communist regime, a communist government, and somebody who is trying to fight for civil rights or for human rights in America as a basketball player. So you see why this story is interesting. Then you have the police, who are often under attack and are still under attack. Now, they are forms of a bureaucracy because they are supposed to uphold the law within a bureaucracy or within a country that promotes or has a or state, local governments. These are all bureaus to keep things intact. That's what makes story number 6 interesting, and that's what gives it the ability to get bigger. Because what happens when you lighten up on the regulations? What happens when you allow businesses to do whatever they want to do without being governed or having to answer to the judge or the state? You see uproars, you see uprisings, you see rebellions, you see riots. You see these things happening on a global scale. Story number 6 has the ability to bring you down to earth. When people break the rules or when people become corrupt, these are the reason why these people have to get voted out, and new blood has to get voted in. Story number 6 has the potential to better us, and that's why I sent it to top 3. I analyzed the story. I did my research. I've even looked at many terms of how people define bureaucracies. many different people's views on the word and the forms of bureaucracies. That's why story number 6 is here, because it is giving you the ability to think, maybe I'm better to think about what this word means and why you have to have an FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, why you have to have a Better Business Bureau or any type of bureaucracy within your own community. That's why story number 6 is the way it is. It gives us all an even playing field, and it gives us all the ability to judge and the ability to be our own creators and to judge those who create for us. That's why story number 6 has the ability to grow. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West, where I'm doing what I'm doing for you, and I'm trying my best to keep you informed, to get you motivated, to get inside these news stories. Do your research, go to the website, check the stories that almost made it in or the stories that did make it in. These are sources. I document my sources on our Twitter feed, so you can see that I'm doing what I have to do, going through over 200 stories a week to keep you informed, to get you to understand what is actually happening. You may not understand something. You may want to understand more. You may see a story. You may hear a news story, and you may want to see what's actually happening. I'm going through the fine details, finding out what stories are important, and that's what I'm doing. So if you want to be a contributor, help out anyway, try not to argue, just stand in the middle, doing what I have to do, analyzing the right and the left, trying to be fair for everybody. So if you want to be a contributor, if this program is for you, if you feel confident in what I'm doing, I do try my best to make these stories heard. I try my best to look at each side. So if you want to help out my cause, help me out. Like I said, I'm just a mediator, stand in the middle. The news journalists, the people on the front lines, they deserve all the credit. I just navigate the news just for you. So if you want to be a contributor, help out anyway. METHOD, the number 8, INC.com, method8.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Now, like I said, there's fun in liberalism, there's fun in conservatism. Sometimes people find fun in each aspect. I try to find the fun and the ideas in the stories to keep you enlightened, to keep you on your toes, to keep you to understand what's happening in the world. And sometimes it's better to understand a story for what it is, and that's what I do. So if you want to be a contributor, help out. METHOD, the number 8, INC.com, method8.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.